All right, good afternoon, everyone. This Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 meeting of the Lake Oswego City Council is now called to order. Ms. Linder, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Buck.
Here.
Councillor Corrigan is excused. Councillor Raff. Councillor Afghan is joining via Zoom. Councillor Mbu.
Here.
Wendland.
Here.
And Burdick.
Here.
Thank you very much. Now, everyone, will you please stand, remove your hats, and join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we have a few things that we're celebrating this month. First, June is nationally recognized as Pride Month, a time to honor the resilience, contributions, and voices of the LGBTQIA+ community. And here in Lake Oswego, we are proud of the LGBTQIA+ individuals and families who contribute every day to the vibrancy of our community as neighbors, business owners, educators, artists, public servants, and more. We encourage everyone in Lake Oswego to take this time this month to learn more about the LGBTQIA+ history, engage in local pride events, and show support for our neighbors. Let's work together to ensure that Lake Oswego continues to grow as a place where everyone feels seen, valued, and safe. And so on behalf of the city of Lake Oswego, I want to wish everyone a joyful and meaningful Pride Month. This year, the Pride Month event is going to take place on June 1st, second annual. Very exciting. Last year, we got dumped on a little bit by the rain, but this year, hopefully it'll be different. But regardless, it was a great time. That's 12 to 4 p.m. at Millennium Plaza Park. It's hosted by community group LO for Love. I appreciate their work on that, and it promises to be a day filled with exciting performances, inspiring speeches, and vibrant activities. And then following that event at 4:30, we'll have a raising of the Progress Pride Flag ceremony at the flagpole outside of City Hall. More information on that event is available on the city's website or on the Pride LO website as well. May is also a special month where we're celebrating and commemorating several other historic and cultural events. And one of those is honoring our Jewish Americans by proclaiming May as Jewish American Heritage Month. This is an important time to recognize and celebrate the rich history, culture, and contributions of Jewish Americans to our nation and our local community. So today we honor the strength, resilience, and enduring legacy of Jewish Americans whose contributions have shaped every facet of American life, from science and the arts to business, education, civil rights, and public service. Jewish American Heritage Month was first established by Congress in 2006 to honor over 350 years of Jewish life in America and to promote understanding, awareness, and appreciation of Jewish American history and culture. Gillian Del Rio, our equity program manager, created a dedicated page on the website to Jewish American Heritage Month where you can learn more and view events that will be offered this month. And we are also celebrating National Public Works Week, which is May 18th to 24th. And this year's theme is People, Purpose, Presence. It highlights the important role public work professionals play in their communities. Public work professionals, they focus on, as you might guess, infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to the sustainable, resilient, and vibrant communities. These professionals are often first responders to natural disasters such as winter weather events, windstorms, earthquakes, and floods, as well as other emergencies such as major accidents or incidents involving hazardous materials. So in concert with the American Public Works Association, we designate the week of May 18th through 24th as National Public Works Week. We call upon the community members to join in activities, events, and ceremonies honoring our public works professionals. They do a wonderful job. We recognize and thank them for their significant contributions and dedication to advancing the quality of life for everyone in Lake Oswego. So thank you to the Public Works team. And May is also Historic Preservation Month. And so before I turn things over to Paul Espy from our planning department, I want to thank all the community volunteers on our boards and commissions, as well as those on the Historic Resources Advisory Board, who really tirelessly dedicate their time and talents into making Lake Oswego the place that it is. There's so many in the preservation community here who have contributed to the preservation of our historic and architectural past. And now I'd like to invite Mr. Espy forward, and I'm going to turn it over to him and to, is Meg here? Oh, Meg, please, as well. He was the chair of the Historic Resource Advisory Board for the presentation of the Jeannie McGuire Lifetime Achievement Award. Good afternoon to you both.
Thank you, Mayor.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, every year during the month of May, communities throughout the nation celebrate Preservation Month, first created in 1971 by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Over the past several years, Lake Oswego has celebrated Preservation Month in May with a proclamation and presentation of the Merit Award, now known as the Jeannie McGuire Lifetime Achievement Award, to recognize those who have made a significant contribution to the city's cultural history and architecture. This year, Meg Matsushima is the chair of the Historic Resources Advisory Board, and she will present the award for Lifetime Achievement in Historic Preservation to Carolyn Glad, a member of the Oswego Heritage Council. The mayor's proclamation declaring May as Preservation Month is also attached, and the city is accepting applications for historic preservation and historic education grants for neighborhoods until the end of May. These grants provide funding for rehabilitation and repair of historic buildings listed on the city's landmark designation list, and we also have applications for the neighborhood education projects about the city's historic past. We are also, this year, we're doing something new this year. We're featuring one historic property each week on the YouTube channel. And each week we have a brief presentation, kind of a photo essay about the properties. And the links can be found on the city's historic preservation website. So you might want to check those out. They're only 3 minutes long. It's not too bad. You might be able to make your way through those. One of ATRAB's ongoing projects, as I mentioned before, is the city's historic preservation grant. And so far, the city has received one of these applications, and I think we have a few more in the queue, for the Gerhard J. Close House up on Kenwood Street. It was constructed in 1936, and the property owners have submitted a grant proposal to replace the roof. For the neighborhood education grant, the Lakewood Neighborhood History Project, which has been continued from last year, will create a self-guided history walking tour and overview of neighborhood history. It will include photos and information about the age and historic significance of properties within this neighborhood. It will also show significant trees and other neighborhood items. And it will be kind of set up as a phone app, similar to the Gallery Without Walls that we currently have. We also have opportunities to preserve and archive the city's rich written history, and you may hear about that later on today, a little bit more later on today. Our first example of this are contributions made by Gail Toft Fazzini from the Lake Oswego Preservation Society and Mark Brown of the Oswego Heritage Council. Lake Oswego Preservation Society partnered with Lake Oswego Public Library and the Oswego Heritage Council to preserve, catalog, digitize, and transcribe a collection of old documents, including 4 leather-bound volumes of board meetings from the Oregon Iron and Steel Company. Gail and Mark made these documents accessible for public use, and the project received partial funding through a grant awarded by the Oregon Heritage Commission. And finally, on behalf of the City of Lake Oswego and the Historic Resources Advisory Board, Meg Matsushima, the chair of the Historic Resources Advisory Board, would like to present the G.D. McGuire Lifetime Achievement Award to Carolyn Glad for her archival work on the Oswego Heritage Council. And as a mother of 5 children, Carolyn has been active as a volunteer in the Lake Oswego School District for many years, teaching art literature. She received the Unsung Heroes Award from the city in 2022, and I think that's the picture of her receiving that award up there now. She provided over 7,000 hours of dedicated service to the Oswego Heritage Council on this project. She joined the OHC in May 2017 and became indispensable in advancing the preservation and protection of Lake Oswego's historical documents, photographs, and other artifacts. From 2023 to 2024, Carolyn applied her skills to a long-term project for the OHC in partnership with the library to organize and catalyze the city's extensive historical collection. Led in large part by Carolyn's effort, the project took 12 months, 8 volunteers, and hundreds of hours of dedicated work to complete. The eventual goal was to store digital copies of these collections online for easy community access, and as a result, the Heritage Council and Library have a complete online index of all of that work. These are just a few of the contributions Carolyn has made to the community, and through all of her great work and interaction with others, Carolyn Glad has made a significant contribution to historic preservation, and at this time, the Historic Resources Advisory Board would like to honor her and thank her for all that she has done. And I'd like to now introduce Meg Matsushima, the chair of the Historic Resources Advisory Board, and have her present this award. Carolyn.
Congratulations.
And on behalf of HRAB, I would like to thank the city of Lake Oswego and everyone who makes Lake Oswego's historic preservation program possible. Thank you.
Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you. Thank you all. And now it's time on the agenda for public comment. If you are here to provide public comment and have not already done so, please fill out one of these white slips on the back table and hand it to Ms. Linder. But I'd like to invite Gail Toffazzini. Please come forward. You're up first. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Gail Toffazzini. I'm a board member with the Lake Oswego Preservation Society. Sitting with me is Valerie Whelan, also a member of the board. I'm here today to tell you about a historic preservation project that was recently completed and adds to the rich, documented history of our community. This book that I am holding is 143 years old. It is the original board meeting record of the Oregon Iron and Steel Company from 1882 to 1905. This book, along with 3 other volumes of the board records, was found in the trash. The books were found by a young woman in the 1970s. A friend had alerted her about a building in downtown Lake Oswego that was being cleared out. The friend thought that there were things being discarded that she might be interested in. The young woman worked for a local title company, had an interest in the history of properties around Oswego Lake. So she went to the building, climbed in a dumpster, and retrieved several old documents, including the original board meeting records of Oregon Iron and Steel. The records give us insight into the decisions the company made to rescue its failing investments during steep recessions in the 1880s and 90s. They also provide details about the eventual selling of the company's extensive land holdings to create the neighborhoods, infrastructure, and identity of present-day Lake Oswego. The woman who rescued the book found them useful to her work because they detailed land sales and transfers, property boundaries, and other aspects of LO's development. She held on to them for nearly 40 years before finally donating them to the Preservation Society. These records are a primary source of valuable historic information about the Oregon Iron and Steel Company and the development of our community. When I opened the first volume and read the handwritten notes from the 1800s, I knew that others would be interested in this history. The collection needed to be digitized and transcribed so it could more easily be viewed and researched. There are 1,000 pages of meeting minutes spanning nearly 80 years. The first book, 400 pages, is entirely handwritten. Tackling this project would be a sizable undertaking. The Preservation Society partnered with an archivist at the Oswego Heritage Council, a historical documents librarian at the Lake Oswego Library, to begin a 3-year project to preserve this history that was nearly lost. With a grant from the Oregon Heritage Commission, we were able to use a professional transcriber experienced with historic documents. Also, contributions from supporters of the Preservation Society and the Oswego Heritage Council made this project possible. A small team of 4 individuals, Carissa Barrett from the Lake Oswego Library, Mark Brown from the Oswego Heritage Council, Valerie Whelan from the Preservation Society, and myself invested several hundred hours to complete this work. Our hope is that the community, researchers, and property historians will use this valuable resource. The books are available online through the library's digital history collection. Photocopies of the original books and hardbound transcriptions are available at the library, the Heritage Council, and the Preservation Society. An exhibit of the books is currently on display at the Ironworkers Cottage and Museum. If you haven't been to the Ironworkers Cottage, I highly encourage you to stop by for a visit and take a closer look at Oswego history.
Thank you very much for coming to present that to us. It's very cool. Good job. When you first came up with the book, I thought you were going to tell us it was Counselor Winland's diary.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Which would also
Started in
be great to get a hold of.
1842.
Yes, exactly.
1842.
I'd love to see that. No, thank you very much. It's a very cool project. Looking forward to learning more about that.
Yes,
Okay.
every morning.
Alexis Pardon Castro, please. Good afternoon. Hi.
Very much.
Welcome.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Sounds like it.
absolutely.
Okay. Pardon? Move it towards me more. Is that better? All right. Thanks for having me. My name's Alexis. I'm the Executive Director of the Tryon Creek Watershed Council. And I'm just here to fill you in as City Council about a project that we've been engaged in the last several months with some city staff, including Martha Bennett and Ivan Enderholm with Parks and Rec. And we just wanted to come here today and share a little bit to you guys so that you're in the loop. So the Tryon Creek Watershed Council, we steward the entire Tryon Creek watershed. So a lot of us know the state park. That creek begins in the Multnomah Village neighborhood of Portland. So I do work to really protect the health of that creek, working on private properties, kind of across different jurisdictions. And the Oswego Lake Watershed Council does similar work for the Oswego Lake watershed, right? So all of the area of land where water flows into Oswego Lake. Watershed councils is kind of it's a funny name, but watershed councils exist all across the state of Oregon. There's around 60 plus, and they're just community-based organizations that were founded after salmon were listed on the Endangered Species Act. So watershed councils work all across the state in partnership across different types of land use to implement projects that support the health of our endangered salmon and other native fish. So one of the things that's sort of a limiting factor in the Portland metro area is that on the west side of the Willamette River, Tryon and Oswego Lake are kind of the only 2 watershed councils that are active. What we have is a lot of smaller drainages that go directly into the Willamette River that are less largely recognizable, such as Johnson Creek on southeast Portland, for instance. And so Oswego Lake and Tryon Creek Watershed Council, we've been having this conversation for a couple of years. And what we're looking into is developing a process where we can explore with the community what it would be like to have expanded watershed council coverage. So we're calling this the West Willamette Watersheds Collaboration. And we've submitted a capital projects request to the state legislature this year. And if it goes through, starting this summer, we would begin kind of a stakeholder engagement process. And the area that we're looking at developing watershed council coverage on extends north of Lake Oswego through the west side of Portland, all the way up actually into Forest Park. So there's no watershed council working on Forest Park, on the waterways that move through, OHSU, downtown Portland, the Oregon Zoo even. And then south of the city of Lake Oswego, we're looking all the way down into Westland and Wilsonville. So there's this whole stretch of area where community members aren't represented by watershed councils. So we've received inquiries from folks in Westland or in the Pearl District that are saying, hey, why don't we have a watershed council? Who's doing planning work to make sure that the water where it meets the Willamette River is healthy for fish? And when we think about migrating salmon, right, they are born in fresh water and then migrate out to the ocean and back. And when they're moving, so fish all throughout the Willamette Valley, really, they might go and spawn in the Mackenzie, but they have to make it through this stretch of the Willamette River through the Portland metropolitan area, right? So Portland, Lake Oswego, Westland, Wilsonville on both sides. And there isn't really this watershed-based planning that's happening. So if this collaboration moves forward, basically, it'll move forward one way or the other, but if we get this funding, we'll kind of hop to it this summer to bring folks together to talk about what would this expansion look like. One of the options is a single merged and expanded watershed council to cover this area, but one of the other options is more of a network structure, which is modeled in the Upper Willamette, where there's a kind of central network that distributes funding across smaller watershed councils. So I hope that's an okay overview. I just wanted to explain it to you guys, let you know that we submitted a capital project request that had letters of support from the city of Lake Oswego, as well as a Portland City Councilor, Olivia Clark, and the mayors of Westland and Wilsonville. We're also in touch with the 3 soil and water conservation districts, so Tualatin, West Multnomah, and Clackamas.
Thank you,
Soil
Ms.
and water,
Castro.
and many other community groups, river keepers, and so on.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming here, and we appreciate the work that you
And I
do.
just noticed I went over time. I apologize.
Yes, that's fine. No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being here.
Yeah, please feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions. We just wanted you to be informed.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I think our timer light isn't giving, I just noticed it's going from green to red. There's no yellow. Yeah, so
yellow, yeah.
speakers be aware. It's going straight to the red. Okay, Jay Hamachek. Okay. There's 3 minutes for public comment, if everyone can please be aware. Thank you very much for sticking to the time. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Jay Amachek, 777 North Shore, and hello, City Council, Mayor, City Manager, and staff. I want to talk about the Park Plan 2040. It's a pretty exciting vision for the future of our parks. As a lifelong safety professional, I was a little surprised at the lack of one key word. What it's failing to address is really a very critical issue. The city has failed to provide a method or funding for water enforcement of Oregon State Marine Board rules on the lake. A key aspect of park equality and access is safe access. And the Oregon State Marine Board uses the Clackamas County Sheriff for their water enforcement on Oswego Lake and Lakewood Bay. In her ruling, Judge Steele stated the reasonable use restrictions could be determined and advertised by the city, i.e. permits, fees, cleaning of boats, numbers over time, enforcement by Lake Oswego Police Department or Clackamas County Sheriff Office. She went on to further say that this would not be too expensive. Nice to know that that's her opinion there, according to the advisory jury. Today, shareholders and easement members must follow the Lake Corps rules, which were put in place in 1963-ish after a fatality on the lake, and have served really to create a safe environment. Unfortunately, visitors of the lake don't have to follow those rules, and many don't. And there's no way the lake patrol can't do any enforcement besides pleading with them, and often it's a very gruff response they get back from somebody swimming or paddling down the middle of the lake. These rules have been in place since the 1960s, and it's critical that I hope the city really gets behind the Lake Corps when talking to the Oregon State Marine Board of getting these rules in place so everybody has the same set of rules. Today, the shareholders, even members, can be thrown off the lake by the Lake Corps, or the general public can't for doing something very unsafe. And it's, again, key aspect of access is safe access, and we've got to make sure that we don't make the news media in the wrong way. The other thing, when I was reviewing the park plan, it was awful hard to do that. It was discussed at the park board in March, and the minutes aren't published. And I'm a little bit surprised that we're going on 3 months later and we don't have access to the minutes. You can go through the agenda or the video agenda, but you have to listen to minute 40 before you even get into the discussion of the lake access. And it'd be nice to get those minutes before before the plan is actually submitted to you guys, so you'd have proper public comment. EO light's working.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Got it back on. Yeah, we were all looking to read those minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's awful hard to
We do.
comment.
Read all the.
So there is a
No,
fast
thank you.
forward on video that works, but
Thank you, Mr. Hamachek. Well, there's the video. There's the video. I don't know. Ben Adams. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi there. Council, I appreciate you guys letting me speak today. I want to come and ask for help. My family lives at 17901 Stafford Road in a historic house built in 1881 on the corner of Stafford and Overlook, 100 feet from the second cell phone tower array that's being put up at Lake Ridge High School. This was not something that we were aware was coming. There was no oversight or notice to us. The big concern here is it's impacted our historical property, as well as this cell tower, which is the second one at Lake Ridge High School, is 100 feet from my home, I have 5 children that live there, and it's 70 feet off the ground and almost eye level to our home. So nothing like this in Lake Oswego right now. It poses a safety concern for our family, threatens our historic property. It's kind of funny that it's Historic Week that we're talking about this. But I'm asking the city to halt any further commissioning of this until we have more time to work with the school district and the city to figure out the real impact here. Again, this is something that's not, it doesn't happen in the city this way, where it's this low and this close to a resident. So I'm asking the city to put a halt on that construction and its commissioning until we can do some further investigation on what the real impact is going to be.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. Sarah Ellison. Good afternoon, Ms. Ellison. Good to see you.
Good afternoon. I'm here just to speak briefly on Parks Plan 2040. I've been a member of, my name is Sarah Ellison. I've been a member of the Parks Board for the past 6 years. I'm speaking not on behalf of the board, just on behalf of myself. And I wanted to first praise the work that Kira and all of the Parks staff put into Parks Plan 2040. They did an amazing job. As a member of the Parks Board and also as a member serving on Parks Plan 2040 Community Advisory Committee, I can say that it does an amazing job reflecting the feedback that they got from the city over the long time that they were doing outreach. I do want to bring to your attention the recommendations that the Parks Board made a couple of months ago for a couple of amendments to Parks Plan 2040 and encourage you to adopt those amendments to the Parks Plan. We think that those amendments were carefully and considerately discussed by the Parks Board, and the park, in my opinion, I think that they would be an important addition to the Parks Plan 2040. In particular, and I heard another member of the public mention the lake. There's one comment that we wanted to add, that the Parks Board recommended being added to reflect the public feedback that was received on support for improved lake access. For myself, I want to make sure that that public comment that we heard repeatedly throughout the outreach process, that's reflected in Parks Plan 2040. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
All right, I don't have any more slips. Is there anyone else here who would like to provide public comment? Okay. Okay, so thank you for everyone who provided comment. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We just have 2 items. Item 6.1 is approval of our meeting minutes from March 31st and April 1st, and item 6.2 is acceptance of the library's strategic plan progress report. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right, motion has been made by Councilor Boop and seconded by Councilor Windland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, motion passes 6-0. And now to council business, item 8.1. This is consideration of resolution 25-24, a resolution of the City Council adopting Parks Plan 2040. I would like to, we have a Parks team and consultants and some people on Zoom. So please, if you are here. Are we not doing the public hearing? This is later. It's later. Oh, it moved. Don't come to the agenda. Yes, I have skipped over items before.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Ms. Hager. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon. We're very excited to be here, Mayor and Council and City Manager. I'm going to let Matt and Lauren do the majority of the presenting tonight, but I first just wanted to say thank you to our Parks and Recreation staff, because this was truly a team effort. I think every person in our department touched it in some way, whether that was attending meetings, helping set up engagement events, offering fresh eyes to read a document for us, or answering one of my many, many questions about all of the incredible things that they do every day. We've also roped in staff from planning, engineering, the library over the course of the project. So I just want to pass along my gratitude truly to all the staff that helped out with this. And I also want to say thank you to the literally thousands of community members who took time out of their busy lives to share with us their ideas and their feedback and their hopes for the future, and especially to our Community Advisory Committee and our Parks Board, who endured 8 meetings each over the course of the project, and each time provided us with really thoughtful feedback that helped to shape the plan into what it looks like today. And I also want to honor your feedback as council. We've shared updates with you along the way, and I do hope that you see your feedback reflected in this plan as well. The last thing I want to say is that you are all absolutely correct. This is a long-range plan. It is not binding, it is not regulatory, and it does not commit you or future councils to implementing any or all of the projects included in here. And I'm saying that for the record, so everybody heard me. It is non-binding. These types of long-range plans are often referred to as like roadmaps for the future, but I'm kind of hoping that Parks Plan 2040 serves more like a compass. So we know that over the next 15 years, priorities are going to change, new ideas will emerge, we will be faced with new challenges that we can't even conceive of yet. What we have tried to do in this plan is balance providing you with some actionable near-term steps, some planning level long-term suggestions, and some tools that you can use and that our stakeholders can use to adapt and prioritize new projects as they arise in a way that ensures we're still sort of moving in the right general direction, like a compass. So that's what I hope you're kind of getting from this plan. But I'm going to turn it over to Matt and Lauren, and I'll give you my microphone. There's your clicker.
Okay. I was going to use that microphone, but I'll use this one. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for having us here. As Kira said, really exciting to be at this point in the process and be presenting this plan for adoption. So great to be here. And so Lauren Scott, my colleague from MIG, and I will walk through a presentation, fairly brief presentation. I'll cover kind of the first 40-some%, and Lauren will cover the last bit, and then we'll turn it back over to Kira to talk about kind of the decision in front of you here. So just a few words about the purpose of the plan. I'll maybe start out with what Kira said and just reiterate this is intended to be a guide, or as she said, a compass for future decision-making and investments in projects and programs that help meet the needs of folks in this community around parks and recreation and open space. It includes both system-wide goals and policies, and Lauren will talk a little bit more about the kind of the key goals in the plan related to improvements to the park system, access to parks and other facilities, and how to do that in an equitable way. It also identifies specific improvements to individual park and recreation facilities. It incorporates an updated vision and set of goals to meet those needs. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit more later. And then also highlights a number of shorter-term actions to address some higher priorities that were identified through the parks planning process. So those are sort of the overall purposes of the plan. Just quickly, how it's organized. I will not read all those sections, but we'll kind of walk through just some of the highlights of some of those sections. I will note that in the latter stages, we added an executive summary, so really try to encapsulate the purpose and the goals and some of the key strategies in that. And then one of the other things we did towards the tail end of the process was completed an athletic field requirement report, which helps guide recommendations related to partly just more efficient use of both city and school district facilities, as well as some capital improvement needs related to athletic facilities, which will again guide future decision-making, planning, and coordination of field use. So just wanted to kind of highlight that because it wasn't done last time we talked to you. There were these kind of 5 components of the planning process, and this kind of highlights the outreach that took place during each of those. I'll say a little bit more about that on the next slide too. But as Kira said, we met fairly frequently with our CAC and the Parks Board, so they did endure 8 meetings each, and they were excellent. Met with you several times, and then I'll talk about some of these other items just kind of on the next slide, which gives you some visuals. So heard from numerous people as part of essentially, I'll call it kind of like 2.5 surveys. The first 2 surveys noted there were part of an initial survey. One was a statistically valid survey, and then the second was the same set of survey questions opened up to the public at large. And so that happened early in the process, and then we had a second survey later to help prioritize projects or types of projects. Really close collaboration between the consulting team and staff throughout this project, through workshops, tours, numerous meetings, a staff workshop where we talked specifically about kind of system-wide goals and policies, interviews and group meetings, small group meetings with 10 different groups, including, I think, 3 different youth groups. Lauren led those, along with Jessa Miller from my firm, who also did a lot of work on the plan. And then a series of workshops, pop-ups, open houses. Really, a lot of that work was, most of that work was done by Kira and your staff, and we helped provide materials and staff those events. It included 4 workshops out in parks, which was pretty awesome to be out in your parks in the summer, just meeting with people who were already there. And then we already talked about the meetings with the advisory group and the Parks Board and y'all. So I'll say just a bit about this first phase of work. This was really to get a sense of and describe your existing system and the context in which we're planning for parks. So what do the demographics of the community look like? What are they expected to look like, or how might they change in the future? And what kinds of facilities are you providing now, both in terms of different types of facilities and the amenities within those facilities? So this kind of helps set the stage for the other elements of the park plan. So I'm going to now turn it over to Lauren, and she'll cover the rest of this.
Okay. Thank you, Matt, and good afternoon, Mayor and councilors. So as part of Parks Plan 2040, we established these 7 key goals and an updated vision in a new strategic framework that was created during Phase 2, following some initial community focus groups, staff, Parks Board, and CAC input. And the framework eventually included the system-wide recommendations and helped inform site-specific improvements and the capital projects that are included in Parks Plan 2040. And these goals also build off of previous city work and council and community priorities. I'll read them pretty quickly. They are access to essential services, vibrant parks, natural areas, and recreation facilities, accessibility for all, stewardship, maintenance, and operations, a sustainable and resilient system, a connected system, and community partnerships and engagement. As part of our planning process, we also completed a comprehensive needs assessment. Parks Plan 2025 had identified these essential services or activities or amenities that have been identified as the most important to Lake Oswego community members, and these were continued forward in Parks Plan 2040, and they are exercise and sports, play for children, and experience nature. Community feedback in Parks Plan 2040 outreach activities also revealed trail connectivity as a 4th essential park service. The needs assessment identified gaps in access to parks, recreation facilities, and activities captured in the different mapping and analyses, some of which are shown on the slide. And these also examined who could access various parks and facilities and where gaps in service might exist. The needs assessment also included a community engagement summary with some highlighted themes that have emerged so far, an overview of recreation trends specific to Lake Oswego and relevant to future planning work, as well as an assessment of park facility needs based on community input in those emerging trends, as well as a review of recreation activity and service needs, which identified opportunities to expand or evolve recreation programming. And the needs and opportunities identified in Phase 3 informed the system-wide and site-specific recommendations that are included, which ultimately informed and created the capital improvement project list, as well as the prioritized project list and the identified implementation and funding strategies. As Kira said, Parks Plan 2040 does not commit and bind the city to any of these projects. The CIP was developed in a way to provide a roadmap or compass, but the city has ultimate flexibility in how those projects move forward and when. The capital projects fall into 4 categories: reinvestment in existing parks, new builds that add capacity or a new amenity or facility to an existing park, access improvements that are new connections or removal of barriers in accessibility, and nature enhancements. The project numbers shown reflect capital investments only, and so maintenance and restoration may not be fully captured, which is why nature totals may appear low, and nature projects are also incorporated into other project categories, so we aren't counting them twice here. Implementing all 124 projects identified would require about $112 million over 15 years and approximately $8 million per year in annual maintenance costs, not including programming and operations. And just for reference, the estimated annual maintenance in 2024 was $5.4 million, just to put that $8 million in perspective. And these estimates for Parks Plan 2040 they're static planning level costs. They're in 2024 dollars, but they are to help give an initial idea of the funding and work needed to implement Parks Plan 2040. And so the CIP list identified projects from a wide range of sources. Some projects are from existing site master plans that have yet to be implemented. Some represent needed replacements of aging amenities or equipment, and others are new ideas that were generated through community input during the process. A 2-step process was used to help prioritize projects for the plan. First, there was a prioritization matrix based on evaluation criteria and community input that assigned a project a priority level and implementation timeframe. And then targeted adjustments were made to reflect other considerations like existing schedules, project status, city council priorities, and funding availability. And this ensured that the timelines identified were both informed and grounded in those practical realities. And this matrix is included in Parks Plan 2040 and can be used to help evaluate new projects as they may arise. As much as we'd like to, we can't predict the future, so this is also a tool for future use and flexibility. And as the map on the slide shows, projects are distributed throughout the city while also occurring at really highly trafficked and popular sites. Reinvestment and access projects make up the majority of recommended capital projects, which reflects the feedback received during the planning process, focusing on maintaining and enhancing what Lake Oswego already has. Now to the fun part. Current funding sources likely won't cover all of the projects identified in the CIP, and the city has been creative in the past with the 2019 general obligation bond, the demolition tax, using grants and partnerships. So Parks Plan 2040 explored some additional options that can be implemented or considered over the next 15 years. The plan outlines a funding toolbox to consider. Each of the funding strategies will be evaluated for fit and feasibility as specific needs and priorities are addressed and projects move forward. That information about advantages, limitations, and current application of funding strategies is included in the plan.
And I was going to jump in here real quick, and I wanted to apologize, Mayor Buck. I think I failed to close the loop with you on a recommendation that you had made at the last meeting about one of our strategic recommendations for Hallmark Street. So that's kind of one of our strategies here, and it relates to just generally creating more community space on the west side of Lake Oswego, places for people to gather, places for the Lake Grove Farmers Market to take place. So what I'd propose is I have drafted some kind of alternative language for you for that recommendation, and I apologize that it wasn't in your packet, but I can review that for you when you discuss other alternatives. And since we're already potentially going to be going in and making some surgical amendments to the draft before it goes before you on the consent agenda June 3rd, it's not a problem to make that change. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Kara. And there are 14 implementation strategies identified in Parks Plan 2040 alongside the projects in the CIP list. And these strategies both support system-wide goals and some CIP projects that need further planning and input. Implementation strategies are intended to take place within the next 5 years with roles, responsibilities, and support outlined. And those details are also included in an appendix. And then draft Parks Plan 2040 went through staff review before being shared publicly. And on March 19th, we presented the public review draft at a joint CAC and Parks Board meeting. The Parks Board did recommend forwarding it to City Council for adoption with some proposed changes for council consideration. And from March 19th to May 9th, the draft was also available for public comment online and shared via email and other ways the city shares these things. And those comments are included in the packet also for council consideration. And then just a few notes on what changed since the public review draft was posted. We finalized the 2025 athletic field requirements report and included some key points in the plan and adjusted the 15-year CIP. We also added an executive summary and director's letter, along with updates on recent and ongoing projects like the Lorac Golf Course and Rosique Park. And then we also made minor clerical edits. And that concludes our attempt to briefly summarize 2 years of work in a short presentation, hopefully leaving plenty of time for questions and discussion.
So our next steps are, if you are to tentatively adopt the resolution that we have put in your packet this evening, then we would bring a final draft of this plan back to you on the consent agenda on June 3rd for your adoption. As we've, I think, all kind of mentioned, there are some proposed amendments that were brought forward by our Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Advisory Board, which kind of served as our technical advisory committee during the project. They had some things that they did not see in the draft that they wanted to see in the draft. And I'm going to kind of run through the list for you quickly, and we're asking for your direction on whether or not or how to include those in the draft. The memo in your packet, which is attachment 4, includes all of that language in underlined strikeout format so that you can see exactly how it would read if you were to direct us to include those amendments in the plan. And so I'll just read them out really quickly. Alternative 1-1 is adding a statement at the outset of the plan about the kind of citywide desire to be a welcoming and inclusive community. Alternative 3.1 is adding a mention into the community engagement summaries to specifically mention access to Oswego Lake as a community priority. That would be in Chapter 3. Alternative 5.1 in Chapter 5 would add a mention of Oswego Lake to system-wide recommendation 2.13, which talks about water access generally. Alternative 5.2 would be to add a note in our kind of trends summary about aquatics for sensory-friendly swim, and that would go in system-wide recommendation 3.7. Alternative 5.3 would add some emphasis on the importance of mountain biking as a recreation activity to the community. Alternative 5.4 would add a new system-wide recommendation, so the numbering would change there, about interest in exploring future access opportunities to Oswego Lake. Alternative 5.5 would add a note in the system-wide recommendations about coordinating with local tribes in the area. And Alternative 7.1 would add language to the Park and Recreation Foundation funding tool that we've identified about potentially partnering with the Lake Oswego School District Foundation at the request of the board.
You guys mean to put Counselor Boop in the Parks Plan? I didn't say that.
It's a great photo.
That'd be a model.
I don't know if it's him. It's missing.
It's our best action shot.
Both legs in place.
No, you only have one vote for this now. There's only one vote, so I don't think it's going to happen. Should we just move on?
It's ridiculous.
And in addition, if you would like to talk about the Hallmark Festival Street alternative, I'd be happy to provide you some additional language for that. So I think the next step is if you have questions about Parks Plan 2040 generally, or discussion items or points of clarification, we can do that, and then we can go into a discussion of alternatives, and we are asking for your direction on those.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Haggart. Thank you all for the succinct presentation too. It's good. I know we all spent a lot of time going through the plan. Ms. Bennett said, read the whole thing, so we did. Okay, let's, maybe we'll kind of, if anyone has general questions first, and then we'll talk about the amendments. I'll throw out real quick, just the Hallmark Street. I don't know if anyone recalls from last time we talked about it, but, there's mention, things are, as Ms. Heger mentioned as well, things evolve over time. The Lake Grove Village Center plan, without any other option, envision the Hallmark Street being where we have the Lake Grove Farmers Market set up right now, and, it's fine, but it's not great. And we've been in conversations with the school district about partnering with them, which I think is important, and also mentioned in the plan, like, as we are so limited in space throughout town, it's these kind of partnerships that are gonna be more and more important. It may not be us acquiring more land, it may be us just partnering with other community entities and stuff to do more, and we've seen that work very successfully, in other cooperative projects. So anyway, we know there's some conversations there around some kind of, plaza opportunity. So I was just concerned last time to see, I wouldn't want us to move forward on that particular TSP when we have a better, perhaps, alternative. And would rather see, and I don't know what you had in mind, but just see that speak to, in broader terms, to just those opportunities for gathering. And it kind of ties into some of the other recommendations around additional parks on the southwest side of town. We do have 2 separate distinct housing projects going in right along Boones Ferry, which those in particular are going to add lots of children to that area. So the plan correctly identifies the need for more facilities in the area. This could also serve that need. But kind of stepping back away from the Hallmark Street and maybe just into broader, because maybe, we don't know, maybe, but also maybe not, So is that kind of what you were thinking?
That's the road that I was going down, and I do apologize again for not closing the loop. Our farmers market and event staff were really strongly advocating for including something about this project because they didn't want to lose the concept, because it can be really challenging for them to set up and take down that space with the way that it's configured now, and these improvements would be really important to them and the kind of continued success of if we were to use that space for Lake Grove Farmers Market going forward. So that's why I didn't want to lose it, but understanding you maybe aren't a fan of the way that recommendation is phrased, I do have an alternative, and I can share it with you now or later when we want to go through alternatives. Okay, so amending it to, or kind of striking and replacing with, consider physical improvements to Hallmark Drive and/or creation of a plaza or other community gathering space on the west side of Lake Oswego for continued success of the Lake Grove Farmers Market and other Lake Grove community events. This may include coordinating with the city's engineering department to encourage implementation of the Hallmark Festival Street Design Concept TSP Project 152, which includes bollards, street trees, or other elements to separate the sidewalk and the roadway, wheel stops, special paving, and special landscaping. In recent years, Parks and Recreation has begun hosting the Lake Grove Farmers Market on Hallmark Drive, which has increased the need for these improvements. Alternatively, a new and improved space for the Lake Grove Farmers Market could be undertaken in coordination with a broader project to develop a new indoor/outdoor community and recreation space on the west side of Lake Oswego.
I think that's great. We all think about
Hits
that.
the nail, yep.
Good job.
As always, well done.
And thank you for that. I appreciate it. The other item we kind of talked about the last check-in was, we've got these great facilities that we've invested in now, LORAC in particular, and, the skate park and just in general. And the council set a goal this year to be more intentional about visitor services, about attracting people to Lake Oswego. So we had kind of talked about, as an element, and there's lots of good things in here about making the programming more visible, accessible, easy to use, and all of that. But we had talked specifically about kind of tying in our parks facilities into kind of that other project specifically related to kind of attracting people to the community. I mean, there's lots of business around sports tourism. In fact, it was my understanding that's what was kind of keeping the hotels filled, with people coming into town for the youth soccer tournaments and whatnot. So now we've invested in these good facilities. How can we capitalize on those to bring people into town, both from near and far, to share in these amenities that the community has to offer? And I just didn't see that reflected. But if I missed it,
I don't think we use the word specifically sports tourism, but we can put that in.
okay, thank you. Okay, Councilor Boop.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I didn't see on the screen, my beautiful picture there.
I apologize.
Yeah.
They hid it in the middle of the
Oh,
presentation.
yeah. For me to read it, yeah. So thank you. Honestly, it's been a great thing. I'm very happy that we are looking forward, into. I just have if Ali, since Ali is not here, I'm gonna say I have 3 questions. Oh, okay. So I have some question. One of my question is, many people in the city, they really talk to me and say most of the amenities and other things are on one side of town, and that they really, they think we should, I'm pretty sure I see in some part of the plan that we are talking about, and that's what we're talking about, Lake Grove. So how can we ensure that all those neighborhoods, especially those underrepresented, there are some that are really out there, that they have, because throughout the plan you talk about access, equity, equitable. How can, if it's always on one side, how can we say that it's equitable? And when can we measure the equity of access or of the park? When can we come and say, oh, the parks are really accessible to everyone? So I really wanted to see that.
So do you recall I think it was maybe September, we brought you this presentation that was very map heavy. It was so many maps. And that was a process that we went through that helped feed into our project prioritization. And so what we ultimately, this is a very, very, very high level summary of that very detailed and technical process that Lauren and Jessa went through. We identified what we termed gap areas, so places in the city where people didn't have close nearby access to these essential services, sports, playgrounds, nature, places where they can be in nature and trails. And we said, okay, where are the places in the city where there are communities who physically don't have walkable access, or where they have less than some other neighborhoods? And that was used to help prioritize our long range kind of planning level capital improvement project list. So we said, okay, here's all these projects. One of them is in this area where people don't already have this type of access, so we should prioritize that project. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, and I'm glad because I did it on purpose, because those folks are watching. They just want to be sure that we are taking them, And the other thing is, since we're making this, how is it correlated, or I don't know how to, for example, the climate change, the change of code in our city. How is this ready for those? I don't know how to say, when we change the code, is there somewhere on the park plan that there is a sort of an adaptation to those changes, or to some emergencies, for example, can come, what happened? Is it taken into account in the?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the code update would be, or what the kind of charter update, or what kind of update it would be. But one thing that we've tried to do is first of all, build in enough flexibility that as new problems arise, like you say, we might not even know what the problems are going to be, that if there's a new project that is urgently needed, that council, or whoever the decision maker, whatever council is sitting up here at that time, can identify that as a highest priority. So it's not like we have to strictly follow the way we have organized things now. We fully understand that things are going to change, and the new priority may be, we urgently need to adapt our entire system for wildfire prevention now, and we can focus on that. That being said, we have a couple of strategic recommendations that are specifically about kind of climate resilience and using, fire and fire resistant and less water dependent plantings, about kind of the wildland urban interface and managing that. And we didn't go as in depth into that in this specific plan. We sort of referenced our natural areas team, who have been doing a lot of planning on that on their own. And you may remember the natural areas habitat management plan, I think is what it was called, that was adopted a couple of years ago, that includes a lot of strategies related to how we manage our kind of wild spaces and our kind of more urban spaces as well, to prepare for things like emerald ash borer and Absolutely.
And I will just note that when Lauren kind of reviewed those system-wide goals that are incorporated in the plan, and underneath each of those goals are a variety of implementation strategies and policies. One of those talks about a sustainable and resilient system, and that really is the focus of that goal and the strategies underneath that goal. So there is sort of a strong element of the plan that's really focused on that as well. And it does include a lot of the things that Kira just mentioned. And you'll see them in other elements of that chapter as well, but that's one place you'll see a pretty tight focus on that.
And honestly, as a teacher, I would give you like A on the work you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mbu. Councilor Winland.
I go A+, but that's all right. I'm not an educator. I do want to say thank you for all the work. I mean, this has been an incredible journey. I think I was liaison before and then off and then back on again, and it was still going in the process. It's been a long journey to get here. It does have almost everything that I think you could imagine to talk about our park system. The only thing that I don't see in here is Appendix G for the fields on this presentation. I don't know if that's included somewhere else or if it's not in my packet, but the field study.
The link. It was a hyperlink because it's like 900 pages long. Not just that appendix, but all of the appendices are together.
Oh, okay. Well, let me put it this way. I will say I've been talking about fields for close to 20 years in this town. I think I brought it up with you at least 18 or 20 times. I see on one table where basketball courts were way deficient in, were way deficient compared to other jurisdictions with youth diamond fields and adult diamond fields. We do okay in, but we do hit it out of the park for dog parks. We have more dog parks per capita than almost anyone by a margin of 3. So that's great, but I think what's missing in this element is the summary information for where we are with field space and basketball courts, or, well, indoor courts for especially youth sport and also adult activity sports. And I will say that that's probably one of the biggest inputs that I have in the whole recreational system. People are super happy with our parks. I mean, we have fabulous parks. And people in Lake Oswego always concentrate on what we're missing. And I will say that some sort of analysis in here to say, from a summary standpoint of view, to say, okay, this is where we're at holistically, because I know you worked with the school district on this. I think we need to have something in here that represents the opportunities, the voids, something in there. I get nothing out of here that says anything about our combined facility use for that. And you go through all the other parks and whatever with excellent detail. And I just think that's one thing that we need clarified, I guess, or summarized.
So a summary of that study's findings.
And then basically, I don't know whether in it, you said that it was incorporated in the capital needs projects.
Yes.
I didn't see that necessarily in anything to say we need 3 more gyms or we need -3 gyms. I can't imagine we need minus in this town, because I'm still hearing, and these are real concerns of real people saying, you know what, my 11-year-old is not getting field time until 9:30 at night, and they come home at 10:30 and they're exhausted, okay? And those are the things that we have to be aware of, that it's the real, the kids that really want to be involved, to give them the opportunity. And I know that's a lot of scheduling between all kinds of different youth sports and whatever. Who the taskmaster is on that, I don't know. But I do know that that's probably one of the hardest things. And then I get a lot of adult people saying, hey, we can't get onto a court or onto a field, or we're limited to 30 minutes. I've heard that one before. And I think that's where we'd lead. I think the capacity issues, where we can have like this chart to say, where are we next to other communities, and then are we void? So, but home run on this whole presentation. It's very clearly written. It's long. It's a little preachy in some things that have less to do with, it's more sociology than necessarily park things, but that's okay. I can live with some of that stuff, so anyway.
I just want, so Councilor Wendland, so you're proposing kind of a status of the fields summary?
Yeah, and a recommendation or where we're void. I mean, personally, I'd love to see it so that I can say, hey, this is confirmation, or it's that needs to be on a priority list, because we certainly have heard that for
Like in terms of field type?
Yeah, the types of fields, and then types of courts, where we're, basically the study that we asked for you to do that would be, I guess, under G, appendice G.
Yes, and I'm happy to kind of summarize that for you real quick if you would like. So we undertook that study to affirm what we had in our capital improvement plan already. So, and it doesn't look at courts, it looks at athletic fields, so diamond fields and rectangular fields, most of which are multi-purpose. And what it found was that we do, in the sort of near-ish term, like within 5 years or so, still need one new rectangular field in our system to meet current demand. And so for us, that translates in our capital improvement plan to, okay, yes, we thought we needed RESEEK, and yes, we did this study, and it affirms that we do indeed need RESEEK. So that's when I say it affects the CIP, that's one of the ways. It also included a number of kind of scheduling, coordination, data sharing recommendations, and we're still kind of continuing to work with the school district as they got new software and figure out how the best way to share data and figure out how to best coordinate. And like one of them was, for example, try to offer earlier evening time slots to younger age groups so that we don't have the problem that you mentioned. One thing that the study did find is that it's unlikely that we will need more than one field within the planning period of this project, so 15 years. So we removed the Lusher, the 2 fields that were proposed at Lusher from this master plan, or from this system plan. They're still in the Lusher area master plan, but we could just pick those up in the future and do another kind of study update. So that's the way that it has impacted our capital improvement plan. But we can add that a more eloquent version of that summary into Parks Plan 2040.
And that would be on current demand that's scheduled, or is this on demand that is actually out there?
It's a combination. So we provided our consultant with all of the currently scheduled data, which is what we have as far as like quantitative data. That's what's available. But what we also did is we surveyed all of our local organizations who are like kind of tier 1 and tier 2, and asked them, have you had to turn away people? Would you have additional time? Would you be playing more if there was more field space? Those kinds of questions, and use that to help inform this as well.
Okay, just so we know the demand part.
Yeah, and we used future school district projections and demographic projections from Parks Plan 2040.
Great, thank you.
It was great to see, too, in the plan, the stated desire to kind of reinvigorate that partnership with the school district, on the field space. I think we're all on board with seeing that. I mean, anything we can do to better facilitate, kind of just like you were saying, Councilman, connecting families in these fields, kids, in an efficient way is great, because we have to kind of cross-utilize these different assets. It's going to be few and far between additional fields and things. It's tough,
Yeah.
And so there were some really good things. I had to say, like, going through the plan, like if I was coming in from outside the community and reading this plan, I'd be like, wow, this is a place I want to live, in this town. I mean, I think it really represented the heart and soul of the community. Our community's values were really well represented all throughout the plan. I mean, it was really well done. I could see kind of the tentacles of the members of our community all the folks who put so much time into this, really well represented throughout the plan. And it's exciting to see like where we've come from Parks Plan 2020. That was my first kind of engagement with the city, was Parks Plan 2020 and 2025.
2025.
And
Was that when you were on Youth Action Council?
yeah, no, I was, just out of diapers.
He got you back.
He did, sort of, but. And to see how we've how we've grown as a community in that time is really very cool. And it is clear too, like all the things that we have done in the past 15 years that we never even talked about 15 years ago. So it is testament to the fact that these plans are very fungible, and there's a lot of wiggle room in the time. And I liked your analogy, carrot to the compass. It's kind of moving us in a general direction, but obviously things are going to come up. We have spent a lot of time on issues that we didn't even think we would, even just recently. And obviously there's ways for the community to bring things forward that aren't in this plan either. And just to touch on again, I mentioned the kind of that economic development piece, and I really want to highlight, I think, the great work that Parks is doing, like at the farmers market and in other events in general, and like bringing small businesses into the community via like the vendors that we otherwise wouldn't be here. I think that's fabulous. And then the work you're doing with the youth on that entrepreneurship program, I hear a ton of positive feedback on that, and I didn't see that. Maybe it's in there somewhere in the 300 pages. I didn't see it, but I mean, I think those are great. There's many ways in which Parks help small businesses, help businesses kind of be introduced to the Lake Oswego community that we don't otherwise have, and I think it's a huge benefit of our park system, and something I know Director Anderholm and the team, you all have done a great job being focused on that, and involving so many different people from inside and outside the community, and I think there's even more we can do in those years ahead. So, yes, Councilor Raff.
Just again, repeat what everybody else is saying. Great work. For me, it's the bold thinking and services, park services we can provide for our community is great. And I like to see that. I just look back in the last 5 years that I've been on council, and you think about the conversations we were having about risk-seek, and will they use it? Is it going to be used? And then LORAC. I think we've established in Lake Oswego that if we build park facilities, they will be used. If you will build it, they will come. I mean, unless it's pouring down rain, the skate park is slammed. And every day I go to LORAC, middle schoolers and high schoolers are pumping iron and using the basketball courts. Let's get the pool going. But I think our park system is one of a kind. And as a parent, it's showing that our kids don't need to be on screens, and if we provide the facilities, they will actively get off the screens. So that's I'm just super proud of it. So
it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Raff. So now, when it comes to the alternatives that have been proposed, I just want to throw out an idea for the council. I mean, some of these items I feel like are really well already represented within the plan itself, and sure they could be highlighted here as opposed to there or whatnot. Others, I think we have had 2 years of engagement, on the plan, and when I read it, I thought, well, I mean, I don't why is it not in the plan then? I mean, if it's either it's in the plan or it's not in the plan for a reason. So it just leaves me a little concerned process-wise that we did lots of really good engagement, which you highlighted in the presentation, to so many different groups, and I kind of want to respect that process. And then in regards to Oswego Lake, I mean, I know this came up, we were kind of finalizing the plan while we had court decision taking place with Oswego Lake. And honestly, right now, I mean, we're trying to figure this out. We have just opened up these steps. It hasn't been easy. We've got rules. We hear, public comment tonight about who's enforcing on the lake, who's not. We are working with the Marine Board, working with Fish and Wildlife. There's all these different jurisdictional issues that we are still working out. It just does not seem the right, hold on, let's figure this out first before we start, putting additional recommendations into the plan that we really don't fully understand yet. And there is kind of the ongoing case. We're not involved in it, but there is ongoing litigation that, let's not ignore that. So all in all, I just want to propose maybe something easy that we just don't include any of these alternatives in the plan would be my recommendation, not that they're bad recommendations or that they foreclose anything, but it's just for a variety of reasons. I think the community, the Parks Board, the CAC, and all the groups that have, and community members who have engaged on this plan have done a great job. I think we have a beautiful plan before us and some good feedback from the council here, and I think we can leave it at that, but see how you all feel about that. I see Councilor Afghan from above.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There he is.
We're talking.
He's up above.
He's here. Hi, Councilor Afghan.
Hello. For my colleague, Councilor Mahbub, not only I'm there, but I'm also here, so I'm everywhere. So I wanted to first say thank you very much and ditto my colleagues about how great of a job and process this process has been so far, and is certainly delivering to the commitment of a roadmap that will, I think, please everyone who lives in Lake Oswego and others who come and visit us. So thank you so much. On the general item, was there any food truck area considered in this parks plan? Because we've been hearing about food trucks, and yes or no will do. And I'm not asking that to be included, but I wanted to know if it was a consideration.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. On the alternative, yes, and that's okay. I just wanted to know if there was a consideration, and I'm satisfied with the answer. On the alternatives, especially alternative 3.1, 5.1, and 5.4, when I was reading them, it came across as city is promoting access and usage of the lake and increasing the number of people who are going to be on the lake. And that didn't jive with what we had been discussing, which the intent of all of our parks have been on the water, have been lake view properties and lake view parks. And these items sort of came across as we're shifting all the intent of the our work waterfront parks. So I can't support that at this time. And I wanted to be very clear on what was going through my mind when I was reading at least those three items. On the welcoming part, I can support it. On coordinating with the tribes, I can support it. On partnering with the school district, I can support it. But those three very specific one, I cannot support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Afghan. Councilor Verdict.
Thank you very much for all this. This is fantastic and gives, as you said, a great compass for us to move forward with. And I concur with the mayor when it comes to the alternatives. I just think we've had the process. It's been a good process. Let's respect it. And as you've stated, this is going to be a moving target. And I don't think this is necessary. So I would vote for just not including the alternatives at this time.
Thank you, Councilor Burdick. Councilor Mahbub.
Yes, Ali. I'm not asking questions, so yeah, but honestly, like I'm very happy about what the work you did. The problem I have is like we have people in the community, like 700, like we have focus groups, people talk, none of them has ever proposed like the lake or as a thing. And as we know, the lake is a very hot button. Like we are having problem with like how to handle this. It all came to us, like I was saying, it came to us We said, okay, we are doing it. And the process is continuing. The Lake Oswego, community is trying to heal a wound that's been open. If we come and just like throw this like a grenade, like, whoa, we are opening, and have it as something, honestly, the community didn't ask for that. It's some people who meet and have it. It's like when we come and say certain things. So honestly, for that reason, I agree. Most of the things that I saw, like inclusivity, access, and so on, but all those are in the document that even if you don't have them, it's already there. The recommendations are in there. The only one that's not in there because no one discussed it was the lake access. And the lake access came recently on a legal decision. So we need to remove it and just move on and just, we have a beautiful and a big and beautiful plan, so we should accept that.
A big, beautiful, is that like the big, beautiful bill?
Yeah. Yeah. So, let's do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Move. Councilor Raff.
I think, do you call me or John?
Yes, Councilor Raff.
I agree, Mayor. I think I'm in favor of removing all the alternatives for two reasons. One, the ones not related to the lake, I believe in being as an efficient government as we can be, and why waste time adding stuff in that we already have and we already have made clearly apparent to our community over the last 5 years I've been here that those are things that we are committed to. We even do, I'm only going to get into it. Okay, so I think there's no reason to put these in there other than just to be political. I don't understand why they're added to it. I don't support them. As it relates to the lake alternatives, look, for all the reasons we've already mentioned, political hot buttons, for me, it's way bigger than that. I think I look at this as an overstepping of the committee's role in what they're charged to do, because the lake is not a city-owned park. They have no jurisdiction on this. So therefore, they should not be discussing it. So that's just my additional comment on it. So if they were to, so I agree with you, Mayor, so.
Thank you, Councilor Raff. Councilor Winland?
I'm in full agreement. I don't think we need any of them. And I'm a big process person. And like I said, we've been working on this for a long time. And I kind of put it in the same category as pork at the end of the bill in Washington at Christmas, where they do the Christmas bill and they just throw everything in there that nobody's discussed, and it hasn't gone through the right processes. I think I'm a big process person, and I think we had a fabulous process, frankly, that we had. And all those alternatives really don't bring up anything that is relevant to the previous discussions. I do want to mention one thing that's off the alternative list that I just want everyone to know. If you didn't reach this, after you've read the 190 pages or 290 pages, however long, the fiscal impact is a big part that I think we should talk about just briefly. One, I just want to look at Director Ivanhoe's, the staff requirement and your resources that you have. It says in the plan that you're covered. Do you truly feel like this is an executable plan with the current staff? You could just go thumbs up or thumbs down. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Yes.
To answer, yes. I do feel that we're adequately covered. I think what the plan lays out is as we get into adding substantial facilities, what the plan does is it highlights the fact that with the addition of those facilities, we will need additional funds to operate and take care of those facilities. A little bit different than our previous plan, 2025. at a lot of things, but there was very little about the added resources to maintain and to operate those new facilities. And we wanted to make sure that we captured that in this plan.
Okay, and that's kind of to the city manager's role of being the keeper of the purse. I think that's one of the concerns. I think it's a fabulous project, but I do see the creep of what I don't want to have happen is all of a sudden, well, it's in the plan, you need to do it. I don't want to set the expectations so high that all of a sudden we're going to have
Yeah, it's
all
just
these
like
new
all
added
your other
services.
master plans, though. You have a transportation system plan that has hundreds of millions of dollars for projects we don't have funding for. You have an ADA transition plan that has hundreds of millions of dollars. So in that way, it's no different. The project list is important, though, for updating our system development charges for parks, however, and so the methodology will use that capital dollar. And then in the future, as you think about all the capital needs in the community, and whether you want to build a fire station or whether you want to build a cover on the skate park, or these give you the guidelines for what the trade-offs really are in terms of how big is this project versus how big is a different project you might be considering. So it's absolutely true that the capital plan is well beyond our reach at this point. There's no funding for any of these projects right now.
Right.
But I do think as you think about your priorities as a council for investments in the community, it does give you a sense of magnitude and helps you make choices.
Right, and I just want to make, just from taking the capital projects out, from a human operational standpoint, I think there's some aspirational things in here, but I don't want to get it to the point to where we're expecting that, okay, it's in the plan and now we need to grow the Parks and Rec.
And I also think that's really important why Kira said at the beginning, this is a vision, it's an aspiration, it's a roadmap, but it's not binding. There's nothing in here that is policy. I mean, there's policy, but there's nothing in here that will result in code or that will force you to make budget decisions. And you all know, because we just went through it, the trade-offs that we make between not just within parks, but within all of the municipal services that we offer, whether it's parks or police or library or fire, that we have to make those adjustments and priorities as a community every time we budget.
Right. It's just, as you know, there's a retailer that says under promise, over deliver, and I don't want to be over promising and under delivering expectations. And so, and then I also, frankly, have been on council long enough and in public service that they come back with the plan and they start quoting it to you as they testify because they said, well, this is your plan that you said you would do. And I just want to put the expectations to say that I think, for the most part, it did actually say in the plan that you could handle not the capital project part, but with current staffing, that we can accomplish this plan, which I think is kudos to you. And I just want to make sure that you won't burn your staff out, because I respect the human capital part of it as well. So, but I do think, on the other hand, it's about an $18 million ask in the next 5 years on immediate projects, which is not totally out of realm of, if you would go for a bond, or if you would, I mean, there's some alternatives that you could do for funding. I think that was put out, so it's not completely out of reach for getting some pretty good things moving forward. So, including receipt to fix your field. So, okay, that's it on fiscal.
Good reminder. Thank you, Councilor Wendland. And, it is, I mentioned, like, reading the plan, representing a community that I want to live in, but more than that, the plan represents a community that, want to be a part of. And that's important because it's people that bring these parks to life, whether it's folks attending events, whether it's folks going to the concerts, being down at Millennium Plaza like they were over the weekend, for the AAPI Festival and all that. But it's also all of us contributing to us, it's the team at the city, but also us contributing, especially to the maintenance of the natural areas where we're never going to have enough resources, especially ever. And I know we talk about that being a community priority, and I think we see in the plan, of course, I mean, it's Like, these are the nice things, right? Fields, or, I mean, for obvious reasons, the trails and all of that. But it does become both, it's a maintenance of our active parks, and then a maintenance of these areas that we've wanted to preserve. You know, that's more than just having them sit there, as we know. And I know that we try, but, you know, we've been putting the same amount of money into the habitat benefit area now for, I don't even, like, every budget I've ever been here, you know, and the costs aren't getting lower. So, and the demands are increasing. It's tough, you know, because it's how do you choose between that and where people play, you know, ball or what. I mean, they're really, really tough decisions, but we'll never have enough resources. But it is a good balance to keep in mind as we continue to expand the parks, is that, you know, that maintenance question as well. But let me, if we can, let me take a kind of a stab at a motion here. I would move to tentatively adopt Resolution 25-24 and direct staff to prepare a final version of Parks Plan 2040 as amended by the comments. As amended by council, it's as amended by, well, I don't want to say it because, well, approved alternatives, but we didn't approve any of the alternatives.
Okay, so hold on just a second. Let me just tell you what I think that you directed us to do, and then you can make the motion.
Okay.
So I think you directed us to revise the language for Hallmark Street to be more broadly reflective of the desire for a plaza on outdoor event space on the west side, as Ms. Haggart read to you. I think you asked us to include a summary of the findings of the athletic fields study in the language of the plan itself. And I think you're going to trust Ms. Haggart to figure out where that goes. And then I think you directed us to make some general policy statements about the role of parks and economic development in the community.
Yes,
That's all you did.
that's correct.
But we said to remove the
You did it, those are not included in the plan. They're not included in the plan. You chose not to include any of
Include them,
the
so-
proposed amendments.
Yes. Okay, so what is our motion?
is to
So moved. Second, I'll second that.
Okay, so motion made by myself and seconded by Counselor Winland. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you, Counselor Afghan. Motion passes 6-0. It's great. Thank you, Ms. Hager.
Thank you.
MIT team. Thank you all
Thank
very
you
much for
very
your work,
much.
and community.
Very
Thank you,
cool,
everyone.
yeah,
It's a great plan.
Very good plan.
Lots of good work. Okay. Is everyone okay continuing on? Quick break? Let's take a quick 5-minute recess. We're back in order. Next item on the agenda is item 8.2. It's our legislative update. Invite Deputy City Manager Madison Thiesing to come talk to us about the waning days.
What?
The waning days.
Waiting days?
The waning days of the session.
So good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm Madison Thiesing. I'm the Deputy City Manager. I'm here to provide a legislative update. A lot of this was included in your packet, so I'll just do this pretty high level. Because the mayor is correct, it is a waiting game right now. The next deadline for committees is this Friday, May 23rd. That's the second chamber work session deadline. So bills have needed to had a work session and a public hearing in their second their second chamber committee. That does not apply to the bills that are in Ways and Means, Revenues, Joint Committees, so i.e. Transportation. And so while bills will start to drop off, again, if they don't make past this Friday deadline, we do know there's some housing bills that we are actively watching that are stuck in Ways and Means. The reason why it's crucial to be talking about Ways and Means is last week the financial forecast did be released, which is the numbers they will be using for the state's biennium budget that will need to be adopted this session for the next 2 years. In that forecast, it was $500 million less than they expected. It's still a larger budget than past years, but it is less than what they had been forecasting. And the reason why I bring that up, Ways and Means will be the one who's trying to figure out how to balance the asks, the financial asks, with then what their actual revenues and resources are. If the housing bills that we are watching are stuck in Ways and Means, they might just stay there because there's not a financial priority based off of all the other asks, being every bill that has a financial need, a new program, an additional staffing, resources, expansion, anything like that will have to be vetted through that process. So with that, I didn't list this in our packet, but the main bills we are watching at this point are the governor's middle housing bill, which we are opposing, but again, that's stuck right now in Ways and Means. It does not have anything scheduled. The shot clock bill, which we are actively opposing, it's getting better. They released their amendment, though, on Monday. We still oppose it. The mayor kindly is doing some outreach to Representative Nguyen on that. At the end of the day, on principle, we would like no more changes to the process for housing. Also, Senate Bill 916, the striking employees, we are opposing. That's still active. Does not currently have a hearing scheduled, but is going to be moving to the floor, the House floor. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes conversations on that one. The public safety drone one is one that I had talked about a few weeks ago. That's moving to the House. We are supporting that one, which allows changing of the provisions to allow more usages that our public safety has also identified as needs. And then the last one that I want to touch on is recreational immunity. That has been passed altogether, so we're really happy with that. So that we can at least count as a win too. As we enter these final weeks, we're going to continue to monitor. As you know, work sessions can happen really last minute, and so I would just ask if there's an opportunity, if we need a last minute testimony, support, phone calls, I will let you know. I will email you. The mayor and I have been in contact every couple weeks, basically, of where we are on bills, and he's been doing a lot of outreach to Representative Nguyen as needed, too. So we're just in that home stretch. Right now, everything is a waiting game. Things aren't moving very quickly. Transportation still hasn't gotten a bill number, so we really are in the waiting game for the next 6 weeks, but knowing a lot needs to happen now in the next 6 weeks, too.
Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I just want to appreciate the update and to comment that, I feel like this council, our city, has been really rather aggressively advocating for the ability of our city to maintain strong livability in our neighborhoods and throughout the community, while also helping to advance our shared goals throughout the state in terms of climate resiliency, in terms of housing production, in terms of, many good elements that make healthy and sound communities and make a positive difference for every member of the community. But we are facing, strong headwinds. And I know it's kind of part of our job here. I mean, it's easy. Anyone can come to a council meeting. We're just such approachable people, I think, too. They just love coming here and talking to us. But that does not mean that we can just somehow do whatever it is that folks want us to do to stop the legislation that we're facing from Salem. So I just think it's important for the community to know that we have been for years, fighting, and not just through this city council, but through our relationship with the League of Cities, myself through the Metro Mayors Consortium. We have been advocating fervently for the interests of our community, making sure that when there are changes, they're crafted in a Lake Oswego way. And we've been successful in some ways, and there are just things that we have been unable to do because of state law. And there's no way for us, this is not where the city can do things and then somehow have their provisions grandfathered in. I know, so we're getting requests from people to make all sorts of last minute code changes, and one, that's not how that works, but two, it wouldn't matter. It's the opposite way. When the state changed, then we have to change everything. And I think we're all very sensitive to the time that we're already putting into making all of these changes, and we are not going to waste the staff time making additional changes only to reverse them a couple months later. So I think it's important for, as frustrated as neighbors may be, what they don't like, coming down the pipeline, what they don't like being constructed in their neighborhoods, been telling folks they could help us by advocating before, our state representative and our state senator right now, instead of continuing to email the city council, who is not passing these laws. But it would be great to have some community members, and I know there are some, I see in the testimony list, people from Lake Oswego do help and write in, but just to make it clear, who's the decision-making authority here, and it's not the city council. And I just want to thank my colleagues and you and the team here at the city for being such good advocates and providing all the good technical assistance as well, as we wade through these agendas. So that's all I want to say. Colleagues, any other comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. The next item on our agenda is Resolution 2523. This is a resolution adopting our standards and procedures to be used in hiring a municipal judge. And it's a public hearing. We lost the judge was too good, got appointed to the circuit court. We're going to find a little worse judge this time. No, I'm just kidding. We want to find a good judge. Not too good. We don't need him leaving. And so anyway, this is a public hearing. We are going to start by a review of the hearing procedure by Ms. Osnek, City Attorney, and then of course, we'll have staff report. So Ms. Osnek, please take it away.
Members of the council, now is the time set for a public hearing on Resolution 2523. This is a legislative decision, which is generally a policy decision within your sound discretion. The process will begin with a presentation by Human Resources Director Megan Phelan. Testimony, if any, will then be received from the public, subject to the time limits in the agenda. And I will ask quickly if there are any financial conflicts of interest, though, for this, unless we're truly Mayor Buck's trying not to get a good judge.
No.
Always a real of it. So hearing that, we're all good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Council and Mayor. Thank you so much for having me today. As you're aware, Municipal Judge Sierra Brown has been appointed to the Clackamas County Circuit Court bench and has resigned her position with the City of Lake Oswego as our municipal judge effective June 25th, 2025. The public meeting law of the state of Oregon allows for the City Council to consider the employment of the municipal judge in executive session if the city has advertised for the position, adopted procedures for hiring, and provided an opportunity for public input concerning the employment of the municipal judge. That is the purpose of our public hearing this evening. The draft resolution and job description provided in the staff report are the same that Council adopted on March 5th, 2024. The standards and procedures for the municipal judge are provided as a draft, but may change in light of public testimony and/or through City Council consideration and discussion. Assuming the resolution is adopted, the hiring process will begin by advertising the position to solicit applications from qualified candidates. The advertisement for the position will be based on the essential functions and responsibilities and the minimum qualifications as outlined in the job description. A list of semifinalists will be prepared by me for the City Council's consideration. Selected candidates will be invited in for an interview with the City Council. Further candidates and final discussions shall occur in executive session, and comprehensive and complete background check will be performed on any and all final candidates. Once a final candidate has been tentatively identified, they will be appointed municipal judge in an open public meeting. It is important to mention that throughout the entire process, the city will honor the commitments of confidentiality of candidates to the fullest extent possible within the requirements of the Oregon Public Meetings Law and Public Records Law. Of note, I do want to mention the city does have some on-call municipal judges that have already been appointed by council that will be available for us to use in the interim between when Judge Brown leaves and when we have a new judge selected. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Phelan. Colleagues, questions? No? Yeah. Oh, yes, Council Whelan.
Did the current electronic transition with kind of, we went from a kind of like paper judge to high-tech judge. Before she leaves, is that all going to be implemented?
I think they've made some definite improvements. I don't know if it'll be fully complete by the time Judge Brown leaves.
Okay. I mean, that would be the only thing on the, I guess we're committed to being more electronically oriented, and I would say that might be a part of what the requirements are. I don't know whether that is germane to the discussion or not, but
that could definitely be something council incorporates as part of the interview questions that they ask the candidates.
okay. But I just want to make sure that we're not halfway done with something that leaves us in limbo, I guess, is complete it. My only thing. So, okay.
I believe some of the on-call pro tem judges that we have are also on board with that transition as well.
I think we're fortunate.
I'm confident it will continue. I guess that's what I'll try to say.
Yes.
I guess just quickly, Councilor Wendland, the other part of that is that the city attorney's office we're committed to, on our end, ensuring that our complaints and other things are electronically filed. And so I guess that's all to say there is some oversight of that process even during the transition, because our office is also a key partner in ensuring that transition happens.
Okay.
So,
Councilor Boone.
yeah, like I'm asking you because Evan is gone and she's gone. So how many people do we need?
Well, for the municipal court, the good news is...
Yeah, I know we need a judge, but also we need to...
He wants a full status on all the vacancies in the city.
Okay, but then how long is it going to take once we adopt this?
Yeah, thank you for that question. What I'd like to do is start advertising for the position in early June and close it near the end of that month in time for us to have an executive session on your July 1st council meeting. From there, we hope to schedule interviews in July. That allows us to do the background check process starting in August, and I'm optimistic we could have an appointment sometime in September.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we're coordinating, Ms. Bennett, coordinating the schedule so that we have ample time during executive session to discuss candidates and, not at 9 o'clock at night, so.
Before the parade on July 4th?
Not before the parade, yes.
I will be here this time.
It seems like a good process, but we have public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. No one has signed up to testify. Is there anyone here who would like to testify? No? Okay. We're going to close the public hearing, and we'll entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 25-23.
Move to adopt Resolution 25-23.
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion, thank you. The motion is made by Councilor Burdick and seconded by Councilor Raff. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilor Afghan. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Ms. Phelan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, information from council. Councilor Burdick.
Me too.
I just want to say that I had the honor of giving out the awards to the Arbor Day Art Contest participants, and we had some fantastic artists who competed in that. And so I just want to do a shout out to them and tell them congratulations again, and thank Morgan for all of her efforts, as well as the rest of the Parks team for that great event.
Thank you for being there. It's great. Councilor Wu.
Sunday, there was the Asian American Pacific Islander Festival. It was, as always, a beautiful time. They acknowledge all the city councilors, those who were there and those who were not, yes, and the city manager, everyone, honestly. It was a wonderful event. A representative went, spoke there. The keynote speaker was amazing. It was very, yeah, I liked it. And the mayor invited me, maybe he'll talk. Oh, he won't say it, he did a speech with the National League of Young Men that was a scholarly, like an academic speech on boys and their success at school. I was really impressed on that one.
Thank you, Councilor Wu.
Good time, yeah.
It was a great event and really well attended on Sunday down the park. Parks team did a great job. People were having a great time. It's good. Just a quick regional update. At JPAC, keep talking about these, RUFA projects, the regional flexible funds. JPAC is, advocating Congress needs to go through this approval of the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Fund. So this was, what was the bipartisan infrastructure law, but now that's coming to an end. So they need to reauthorize some of these funding streams so the transportation projects can continue to move forward. So we're basically asking for kind of a hold the line preservation of current funding levels, both for special programs that were created with BIL and then the formula funding levels that had already existed, kind of maintaining funding and policy focus for safety of all road users, just good, pretty stable region-wide priorities and all that. Now we're coming down to these step 2 projects, which are kind of smaller, projects throughout the region that all of our communities have put forward that are on our different RTPs. Lake Oswego does have a project that we submit every time. It's for Lakeview Boulevard, but a different part, the industrial part of Lakeview Boulevard. And it always gets somewhere, but unfortunately,
it doesn't get up
it doesn't
to the
look,
top.
yeah, it's just kind of planning dollars too. And we only have $40 million. That's like for all 3 counties, it's a relatively small. And so at C4, we're kind of whittling it down, and at JPAC, I have asked the coordinating committees of all 3 counties to just come with like reasonable. There's tons of projects, tons, and some of them are huge. Some of them would take up the entire pot. So it's like, well, don't come with that project because we want to sprinkle the money. I think there's general agreement that we want some geographic equity, and we want Washington County to get a little bit, Clackamas, Multnomah, and we all know how big we are, and we know we're the smallest. So there's some great projects, though, in Clackamas County that we're putting forward, and so working with those communities on those. Metro, they're doing a future vision project. They've had a future vision. Now it's time for a new future vision. So, they're doing that. They've been running this community connector study, which is pretty cool. There's no funding to it, but it's nice to at least see recognition of these community connectors. That was talked about in our parks, not this study, but the idea of a community shuttle in our parks plan, and something that I know a lot of people are interested in. They are also, are commencing work on this Oregon house. So we did our local housing production strategy, and part of that House Bill 2003 that mandated that also asked Metro to do their own housing production strategy. And so they're doing that. And at first I thought, well, what is this is like planning on top of planning on top of planning. But, they are so they're working with us and all the other jurisdictions, and they're looking at our housing production strategies and saying, well, is there anything that they can do? A list of actions to promote housing developments and access throughout the region. So they have an implementation work group. I don't know if anyone from our team's on the work group, but it's representatives from all the 18 cities. Someone must be on it. I don't know, because it says everyone that had to do a housing production strategy has someone on that work group. So. Maybe Eric, yes, which is great. But asking So it's great. I mean, I think that kind of ties into the future vision as well, to have the housing, attracting people here with jobs and everything else. So that's the regional update. Anything else? Anyone?
I'm going to have Megan come up and talk about the event on Thursday night. Could you do that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, and tomorrow too, can I just, there's an event, if you want to, we're going to ride, is that open to anyone? The trolley? Yeah. Okay, we're celebrating the electric trolley. Yeah, and we're going to ride it tomorrow at 4.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock is the ceremony with the NATO. It's actually the Bill NATO trolley. We're naming it after Mr. NATO, and so they'll be there. And of course, they're working with us over here. And Councilor Lewis will be there as well. I wanted to mention that as well. I think everyone knows the county commissioners appointed a replacement to the commission yesterday, and just want to acknowledge 2 of our former colleagues, Jeff Goodman and Jackie Mans, who both represented Lake Oswego very well, and of course Christine Lewis, our District 2 Metro rep, who did a fabulous job as well. Of course, they were not appointed, but they appointed someone.
On the trolley, do they still do the Christmas?
The trolley.
Christmas
Yes,
trolley?
they do the Christmas trolley.
Yes,
So-
the Tinseltown trolley.
4 o'clock
Very
tomorrow.
popular.
That's the one you go on, is the Christmas.
I don't know if it's unlimited space on the trolley.
Well, this is an event that's actually being coordinated by Vintage Trolley Inc., who owns the 2 replica trolleys that we lease from them. And we're happy to announce this is the full line is back open. It had been closed for a couple of years due to a capital improvement project on the long trestle. It's been completed. TriMet did that work. And so this is really exciting to be able to go all the way up north to the Bancroft station. And then actual trolley services will start Memorial Day weekend, Fridays and Saturdays to the general public, where they can purchase tickets to ride the trolley. Thursday, we'll go to Portland. I'm sorry, it's tomorrow, Wednesday, for the BTI event. People who come to that will be able to ride the trolley up to Portland and back. Yes, and Thursday evening, starting at 5:30, we are hosting a suicide prevention and mental health forum. In May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a partnership with Clackamas County. We structured it very similarly to what you may recall would be the community event after the significant weather event we had, I think, 2 years ago. Where we're going to have resource tables initially. People will come in, we'll have resource tables, we'll have our police department, fire department, adult community center, some Clackamas County resources. People can walk around, get information, pick up materials. At around 6 o'clock, we're going to have a formal presentation start. Mayor Buck is emceeing our evening. Dr. Sarah Present from Clackamas County, the medical officer, will be there to give us a talk to the group, as well as Gally Murray, who is the suicide prevention coordinator for Clackamas County. After their presentation, we'll do some quick announcements about different other services that are provided, not only through our adult community center, but also through NAMI. I forget what that stands for, but I'm sure they'll tell you on Thursday. National Alliance for Mental, there's an I. Illness, thank you. It'll be a great event. I know I'm skipping over some of the other things we have going on that night, but I really encourage you all to be there if you can make it.
Thank you. It will be a great event. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thursday at 6?
I believe it's 5:30 to 7:30, and the presentation begins at 6 or
Right here.
6:15. Yep, in this room. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Wow.